Hi everyone, welcome to today's Wednesday tour. If you don't already know me, I'm Carly Dodd, like JamFactory and the First Nations Engagement Coordinator and Assistant Curator. So today we've got Sonya Rankine for our tour. I just want to say thank you to MSA for the partnership and letting us have our talks here. So Sonya is a Ngarrindjeri, Nudgery, Narungga and Wirangu artist from South Australia. She more so focuses on the traditional weaving techniques of Ngarrindjeri and Nudgery. Also blends traditional and contemporary weaving together as well. Before we hand over to Sonya, just want to say if you have a phone, please turn it off or put on silent. And also, welcome to the talk, and also want to welcome you and acknowledge that we are on our country today as well.
Thank you very much, Carly, and thank you for being able to organise this and get me here to be a part of it all. So before I begin, I'd just like to garner acknowledgement, and I live on Narungga country at Moonta Bay on the Yorke Peninsula. And I've worked a lot around revival and maintenance of Narungga language. So I'd just like to do an acknowledgement, because I'm not Ghana, in Narungga language. Kurana Banyawata, maybe Wilcha, Wilba, it's the afternoon now. Kurana Wilba, Namani Nadli Sonya, Nagradaja Narungga Wara Wongacha, Nadlu Ghana Bangarilla, Bani Banago Wadley, Bani Banago Yara, Nalago Puki Pukulu, Manmana Bacha, Nyadlu Bamari, Badna Angi Yardley, Nari Wogani, Nalago Wambana, Yungu, Nalago Dagari, Nalago Gungari, Nayungu. So good afternoon. Hello everyone, I'm Sonya. I'm proud to be speaking Narungga language, and we are on Ghana country. This is their home, this is their land. Our heritage is strong, and we come together as people to work as one and share our experiences. The future is in our children. Thank you. Okay, let's get rid of that one. And where's the other one that I want? There we are. All right. So, large as life here. Didn't expect this kind of bigger PowerPoint, but there you go. So this particular picture was taken by Ben Scarcey at Tanundi, and that was in 2021. Yes, 21. So that was a really exciting part to actually get a phone call from, Nikki Compston and go, hey, we'd like you to be a part of Tanundi. And I was just really overwhelmed. And so this is it was exhibited in Gallery 1 with lots of other woven art by other artists from right around Australia. So I've just got different pictures. They're kind of all over the place in terms of they're not set up in a chronological order, but more of a conversation about the different types of weaving that I do. So I'm called Lakanmara, and Lakanmara, and as Carly said, my weaving is really first and foremost connected to Ngarrindjeri culture. And I first learned from Master Ngarrindjeri weaver Annie Ellen Trevorrow. So, it is quite fitting. It is International Women's Day, and I'd like to honour this amazing woman and what she had passed on to me 30 years ago. I just saw her at a community workshop and was drawn to be able to learn weaving. And for me, that's really important, because I was taken from my family at 7 months old and put into a children's home till I was 10 months and fostered. I suppose, I always struggled with those identity issues, but when I got to university and I studied at the Aboriginal Task Force, which was the former South Australian Institute of Technology, when I graduated, it was Uni SA. And I realised I actually did have a really sort of, a very supportive foster family where I was able to be connected with my mother. So I always had a relationship, a little bit ad hoc, but I always knew who my mother was. I always knew who my brother was, and later met my sister. And as a teenager, got to spend that time. So, and my mother was born at Rankine, on Lake Alexandrina in the Coorong. So my strong first and foremost connection was as a young Ngarrindjeri girl, and weaving is what has really bound me and strongly connected me to my identity. So Lakan Mara is Ngarrindjeri for weaving hand. Lakan means weaving and Mara means hand. And this design, it was created by my eldest daughter, Soraya Rankine. So this is the image from our mob in 2021. So in 2019, I'd won the Don Dunstan Emerging Artist Award. I always figured, well, if you don't put in, you've got to be in it to win it. So it was my second year entering our mob. My first year was in 2018. And I was just over the moon that actually someone bought 2 of my pieces. So I kind of was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm actually an artist now. Somebody bought a couple of pieces. So after the Don Dunstan Emerging Artist Award, the following year, well, it didn't happen because of COVID. So in 2021, I was to do like a small feature exhibition within the Our Mob exhibition. And these are just a couple of the pieces that just show diversity of that I explore other types of weaving techniques that I've learned from other non-Aboriginal weavers actually through Basketry SA. And June Faulkner in particular we're affiliated with Basketry SA, we call the YP Basket Cases. And we're a wonderful group that we get together a few times a year, and I've learned so many other different techniques. So the pieces that you see, they're actually made from ponytail palm and using a spiral stitch technique, and we've got a beach hagstone that I collect actually from June Faulkner's property at Stansbury. So that was me winning. That's why I said they're not actually in any order. But this was when I'd actually won the award, and these were the 2 pieces. The 2 pieces that I had entered, and I learned lots of different techniques, and so I wanted to do something a little bit different. So this one was actually made from jacaranda stalk. So I'm the person that will be on the side of a road, on the street, collecting just stuff off the ground that people look at me really weirdly, but I don't care. And I love working with jacaranda stalks because when like all materials, whether it is the traditional spiny flat sedge or whether it's jacaranda stalks or whether it's palm inflorescence, the seed off of the seed branch, you have to rehydrate them. And jacaranda stalks are really beautiful because you smell the flowers. And that was woven using some wax polyester thread. I'd like to use wax linen thread, but you have to get it from overseas. So wax polyester thread works just as well. And you just get it from the leather shop just over the next couple of streets over at Weymouth Street. Amazing material. And that was using spiral stitch. And this one was using a random weave. And the feathers are actually attached with the Ngarrindjeri stitch. So they'll kind of like blend both of them. So that was incredibly exciting because they don't tell you. You find out on the night. You just go, oh, yeah, I'll go along to the exhibition. That'll be fun, and see my work on display. And then you get told that night. And it was really interesting. Cedric Varco and I had actually had a photo before the announcements, and then he received the Arts Award. I think it was the Arts Award. And that was really special because my granddaughter was there, and she was like about 4, and she just ran straight up onto the stage. And so she was there with me. So I should have put that one in. That was so cute. These are ones that I put into my Our Mob featured exhibition, and I got to go and have a play with working with clay, with Liz Warshope, and she supports a lot of other Aboriginal, artists, with Malkawiri as well. And so I just went and had a little play making some moulds and making some bowls because I wanted to do some weaving onto them, and that was the first piece. And I used jacaranda stalks. This one's jacaranda stalks and long pine needles. And then this one just long pine needles, and used the Ngarrindjeri and Nudgee stitch. So Nudgee is of the mid-north, which is the Barossa Valley, the Clare Valley, right up to, say, Orroroo, across to Peterborough. And they use the spiny flat sedge grows there as well, and it's the same weaving stitch. This is one of the pieces that that's why I want this little document so I can talk about the names. Hold on. Okay. So this was my Tanundi collection that I will never sell. It's actually being displayed with Guildhouse. Guildhouse has supported me, and I give it to emerging curators to use to hang. So it's in Equity Lawyers, I think somewhere in McGill. So it's on display there till May. So this one was actually using spiny flat sedge, the traditional weaving material of Ngarrindjeri, and I just love emu feathers. Now, when I started making baskets, people go, "Oh, you've got to give it a name," and I'm like, "Are you serious?" So that's the art thing to do. This is what artists do. So I thought, well, how can I kind of be a little bit, I've worked with Narungga language for over 15 years in education. And so I thought, right, I think pretty much all of my pieces do have a language name. So if it is using the Ngarrindjeri stitch, I then will give it a Ngarrindjeri name. So this one was called Bilbili Konali, and so which means rushes that are used for baskets and mats. With the Konali is the word for emu feathers. The next one is still using the rushes, but I thought I'd incorporate the stone because I'm hooked on weaving around these beach hag stones. I just love having them as a centerpiece. So I create a lot of pieces with the stones, and this has the Ngarrindjeri stitch. So this one was called Bilbili Mati Konali, which is the rushes used for baskets and mats, which is Bilbili. Mati is stone, and Konali is the emu feathers. And that is also like using the waxed polyester thread. I like using the waxed polyester thread because it grabs the material. And so it holds on to it and keeps it in place a little bit stronger, a little bit better. When you're working with other kinds of, say, jute string or other things like that, they'll slip, whereas the polyester thread kind of grips it and hangs on. And it's really nice to work with. It doesn't really break. It doesn't break either. This one is made with philodendron. It's the stalk of the plant. It's absolutely lovely, and I'm so excited. My daughter Sarah moved into a new place. She has about 6 of these plants in her yard. So I'm really excited. I have my philodendron collection now, and palm trees she has too. So this is made with the philodendron leaves, the stalk. And again, they will have to be hydrated, and I kind of did a bit of a twist on it so you could get the different colours with a beach hagstone and the feather detail. So this one I called Larala Konali Pempandawi. So Larala is round, Konali, emu feathers, and Pempadawi means basket in Ngarrindjeri. This one is, what one was that? That was made with ponytail palm. So ponytail palm is like kind of got like a little bulbous kind of bottom, and it's nice and green. Has this really beautiful, they're all flowering at the moment. But what I use is just the stuff that you just pull out from underneath the plant. And so all of these things that I generally use are things that would end up in the green waste bin. And that's what I really love about the weaving is it has, I suppose, a sustainable element, it being environmental, or even if I do go and collect materials, I just take what I need from that plant. This one I called Mati Konali Pempendawi Stone Emu Feathers Basket in Ngarrindjeri. And then I did some with using the palm inflorescence, which is the palm seed branch, and it'll start off with all the little balls on the seed, on the little bits, off of the branch. And a lot of the time these plants, the branches will fall, and they always end up in garden waste rubbish. I will stop and pick them off the side of roads if people have put them out, much to the embarrassment of my daughters, or they go, you're not putting that in my car, like go get your own car. But I learnt this when I went to the National Basketry Gathering a few years ago and just got totally hooked on it. And it's using a random weave technique. So there is a process to begin your piece, but then everything is random because you're just building and filling it. You never know what shape you're actually going to end up with. You can soak it in, my bath's not really, you don't want to, it's not a very great bath. You don't want to really soak in it. So it's just gets used for soaking all of my materials. And so, you can put them in water and try and shape them into submission to do what you want, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And then I just trimmed it off with some jacaranda stalk, used a coloured embroidery thread for that one. And I called this one Gari Guma because I sort of thought it kind of looked like her. And it means, this one means emu number one because it was one of the first ones that I'd actually made in this kind of way with the feathers. And because it's not Ngarrindjeri techniques, I use the Narungga language. So Gari is the word for emu in Narungga, and Guma is one. This one is the palm inflorescence, but I put long pine needles as a bit of a detail around the edge. And for all the Tanandi collection, they all had feathers, emu feathers on them. And this one is called Gari Wabba Guru. So Gari Wabba means emu feathers in Narungga, and Guru is round or a cylindrical kind of container in it. And this one, turned out probably the roundest that just turned out in a really nice sort of round shape. And this is the last one of the Tanandi collection, which was, again, with the palm inflorescence and just emu feathers on this one. And I called it Gari Wabba Darawa, emu feathers and big, because it was the larger one out of all of those particular pieces. So for me, language is really important. Our language has been sleeping because of colonisation, being rounded up on missions. We weren't allowed to speak our language. We'd be punished to speak our language. So for our language to have survived, and even Narungga, there has been, we don't have those words anymore. Ngarrindjeri, even, is a lot more comprehensive, but we've got to work on maintaining our language in that revival process so that it's not lost through generations and still feeling the impact of colonisation and invasion. This was a commission piece, and I used, in this one was Dianella. Dianella is really popular for councils on their council verges. I collected off of the side of the road on the York Peninsula. So I'll just pull over and I'll take what I need. And the client here wanted that, the natural connection to the land. So Dianella, and wanted the beach hagstone. And this one was done using spiral stitch with the emu feathers, was the request of the client. Just another example, and showing that with the palm inflorescence, it can be quite thick. Some of them are quite thin, and different little placements of emu feathers. I'm sort of quite fortunate with when I sometimes do workshops and places that I work, they might have professional photographers come in, and they kindly share it with me. I did a workshop at Connect Ed, which is a small little company of educators who work with schools around helping them, working with kids around trauma-informed practices. These are two little pieces, the tiny little abalone shells. And it's spiral stitch, but you just wrap it around it and it literally just hugs the shell. You don't stitch it or attach it or glue it or, gluing is, you don't do that in basketry. You don't glue, but sometimes you might have to. But the way you do it and build it is it snugs around the whole piece. And I've done bigger ones as well. That's just an example of some cordage that I went to an ex-boyfriend's, well, his ex now. We went to his little nephew's birthday party, and in the garden was all of these agapanthus leaves and red hot poker leaves that were really nearly to the point of not going to be good for anything. So I said, can you get me a garbage bag? He's like, what for? And I said, look at all that material in the garden. So I'm reefing all this stuff out of the garden. They're like, okay, you got a weird one there, And then I made this cord on the way home. So just a little cordage technique. And what you can do is through stitching, you could use that into a basket. But I just have these as little examples of you can use anything. So this bottom piece is actually the first piece this is the first piece I made with Arnie Allen. So this one was at this workshop, but I don't actually take it out anymore. So it's about 30 years old. These other ones, so it's probably about 6. That one's probably a little bit older. And so you can see when it starts off, here's some of the material that's probably was about 4 years ago I'd actually picked it. So you can see it's starting a little bit green, but it's bright green, and you have to let it dry out for about 2 weeks at the least, and let all the oils dry out. And then when you want to use it, you rehydrate it so you can bend it and manipulate it to be able to make a piece. So you've got the round technique. This one's a bit of a sculptural piece. This is a different technique that you can make square things that going back and forth, and that's just a really little small one. And that's just where my weaving and where it's all sort of come and started from with the Ngarrindjeri Lakan. And I suppose I've played with a few different other kinds of materials from when I get together with my ladies on the York Peninsula. That's just with native flax and a full plait, and you actually shred it all down, and you use that shredded fibre to actually stitch as well. You plait and stitch as you're going along. The one above that is just another random weave technique that starts off as a flat mat, and then when it's wet, you can pull it up and shape it around a glass too. And that was with lamandra, some Dianella, and I bought some fancy yellow hemp string at the basketry gathering. And here is just Dianella, some long pine needles, and jacaranda using spiral stitch. I have lots of pieces that I take along to workshops to display that start and never finish, but it just shows what you can do, lots of different things with natural materials. This was when I first started making earrings. So I kind of, actually I just seen Alara Briggs perform up at Okaria Cultural Centre with Lou Bennett. And I had to quickly make her a pair of earrings because she's always loved my earrings. And she'd message me and she goes, "Oh, are you making earrings?" I said, "I've actually just done some." So, you know, and then it kind of just grew and grew from that. This pair here I kept for myself, but then I seen Sam Yates at, I think it was the second Almob, and I said, "Oh, look, just take them." So she's got them and she wears them all the time, and that's my younger daughter, Caron, who helps me out with weaving. It's become a family affair. She does a lot of weaving with me and helps me out with workshops and different, making all sorts of different things. This was a commission, probably one of the biggest sort of first commission piece, and that's using bulrush. And I've incorporated the feathers, and I don't know, I probably can't really see it very well, but around here are like little cowrie shells that she'd collected from her hometown on the west coast. And I used the traditional Nuttingeri stitch with a few little kind of closer stitches for detail. So that was the biggest sort of piece that I'd made. And then when I made it, I was like, you go, "Oh, I really would love to keep that," but she paid me really quickly when I said that. And so, yeah, it was just, it was fun making that one. This one I made for an exhibition at Borough Regional Art Gallery. It was called Top to Toe of the York Peninsula. So this is a wonderful material here. I hadn't used it in this way before. I just try to do different things. I don't know if I did, probably get a bit bored and you want to try and do like different experiment and expand yourself. That's what they say, you've got to do, evolve. So this is from a plant that's called dodder laurel, and it's a parasite plant that grows along the York Peninsula in certain areas, and it just grows over and consumes plants. The other name, which is so much more fun, is called snotty gobble. And I figure it's because it sticks like snot and then it gobbles up a plant. It will actually, some bushes will be completely covered. So I figure using it, I'm kind of helping the poor plants that are being sucked up by this parasite plant. So with this one, I kind of twisted it and then stitched it together with a dark brown polyester thread. I'd used, this one is woven around that, it's called Garnia phyllum, which is a traditional plant of Narungga people that they use to make string for fishing lines and fishing nets. And the stones from Stansbury and some bertie with some condong seeds. So when I was putting it together and the way that I ended up placing it, it ended up looking like a bit like the foot of Gurunda of the York Peninsula. But for me, it was about all the special places for me. So this is me at the top at Moonta Bay, where I live. This is here at Stansbury, where I love collecting and gathering, and June gifts me so many rocks, because you can never have enough rocks, because you need to have a good selection to find the right one that you need to use. This represents Point Pearce, which was the mission when Narungga people were rounded up and forced to live on, but now is the Aboriginal community. This is coming down to Edithburgh, which is another really, I really love going down the south of Gurunda, York Peninsula. And then these here represent when you're getting down further and to the bottom end of the country, which is taking in Marion Bay and the Gurunda Dilba Innes National Park. So it evolved into that piece, and that one ended up getting bought by a couple that were travelling through from the East States and heading back home to Western Australia to Cottesloe. And they said, no, we don't want to wait for it to be sent, so they just took it off the wall and off they went. So that was nice. These were the lovely photos taken by Connor at the back there for promoting a JamFactory workshop that I did at Seppetsfield the other week. And a lot of the things that are on display And just a piece that I was working with of raffia and incorporating quandong seeds. Other beautiful photography that I now can use and share. Pretty lucky. Just a close-up piece of the little wall hanging. So this is a pretty kind of rugged. Sometimes I use quite smooth beach hag stones. Some people call them Odin stones, but I just call it beach hag stone. That was a little bit rough and rugged. And this was when I first started out. So this is just jute string from Bunnings. Bunnings is amazing. Go to the string section. There are just so many different types of things. So you can make it really quite inexpensive, and that's what I love about weaving. It doesn't have to be an expensive art form, because we're all struggling, to put things and make things. That's just a close-up shot. This was the first one that I actually made of the random weave with the palm inflorescence. So a lot of firsts don't go to anyone, but I keep them and use them for display. This here is like the good old 70s wooden curtain ring. I've started it. I don't quite know what it's going to become, but I use it as an example that you can use anything. Op shops are amazing places to go and look for things that you can build onto. And even this little piece, you can just see a little bit. This was all the scraps of the crud that ends up at the bottom of raffia that you can't weave with, you can't do anything. But I'm like, that's money. I'm not throwing it out. And so I just used all of that thin, cruddy material and then stitched it together with some nice pieces of raffia.